This you have to hear in order to believe. Some things just don't make sense, and this is one of them. One of the MAGA voters, after voting for Trump, now his wife has been arrested by ICE and she is in a ICE detention center. Tyrone Bowman live. According to USA Today, let me read you this article. Bradley Bartell and Camelia Minaz had a familiar small town love story before they collided with immigration politics. They met through mutual friends, had a first date at the local steakhouse, married after 2 years, and were saving to buy a house and have kids. Munaz was already caring for Bartell's now 12-year-old son as her own, but last month on their way home to Wisconsin after honeymooning in Puerto Rico, an immigration agent pulled Munez aside in the airport. Quote, "Are you an American citizen?" asked the agent. She answered no, she wasn't. She's from Peru, but she and her husband had taken the legal steps so that one day she might get U.S. citizenship. Millions of Americans, including Bartell, had voted for President Donald Trump's promise to crack down on criminal illegal immigrants. But 8 weeks in, the mass deportation effort has rapidly expanded to include immigrants whose application for legal status in the country is under review. Even those married or engaged to U.S. citizens are being detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, USA Today has learned. In addition to Munaz, USA has confirmed through attorneys, family members, and documents that ICE has detained for weeks a woman in her 50s who has lived in the country more than 30 years and is married to a U.S. citizenship, a woman in her 30s with proof of valid permanent legal residency whose father and siblings are U.S. citizens and who first came to the U.S. as a teen, a European woman in her 30s engaged to a U.S. citizen who overstayed her visa when she was 21, a woman engaged to a U.S. legal permanent resident with whom she has lived with for 9 years. None of the women have a criminal record, according to a USA Today review of national law enforcement records. All were in an ongoing legal immigration process and felt comfortable enough boarding a domestic flight. Immigration agents swept each of them up at airport checkpoints in mid-February in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. Neither ICE nor its parent agency, the Department of Homeland Security, responded to multiple requests for comments. So here's a picture of Bradley Bartell and his wife, Kamala Munez. And she's been detained by ICE for the past 4 weeks. It's called the ricochet effect. Nora Ahmed, legal director of ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union of Louisiana, said immigrants in legal limbo of any kind should take precautions if they plan to travel. The unfortunate answer is they have to be worried, she said. If you are not a citizen of the United States and you are going through an immigration process, your first thought needs to be, how can this process be weaponized against me? David Rosas, an immigration attorney representing Munez, agreed anyone who isn't a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen is at risk, period. Bartell and Munaz wore their wedding rings for the flight home, secure in the knowledge that the U.S. government knew they applied for her green card. She had overstayed her original visa, but they reasoned she had been vetted from the start, worked on a W-2, and paid her taxes. Before agents led her away, Munez pulled off her wedding ring, afraid it might get confiscated. She shoved it into her backpack and handed it to Bartell. He shook as he watched her disappear. He thought, what the do I do? Overstaying a visa is considered an administrative, not criminal violation of U.S. immigration law. Immigration attorneys say it can result in a bar to returning to the U.S. for up to 10 years, or it can be lawfully forgiven under a waiver of unlawful presence if the immigration spouse or immediate relative is a U.S. citizen. Let me break it here and say this. All this legal jargon, all this triple and double talk, you let the politicians that are in power right now that are Republicans, who have servants who work for them that are not black, they're from other countries, they're not going to have them deported. There's an exception to every rule. People who are poor, poverty-stricken, marginalized, who have no voice, who have no power, they have no political leverage, they're always punished. You can go back in time and you can read through historical perspectives how the autocrats ruled unmercifully toward those that they deemed were beneath them. The privileged class versus the non-privileged class. It's still the same thing today. And what is the old trick that they always use? Racism, bigotry, prejudice. Pit one race against the other. Keep them fighting. Keep them arguing. Keep them bickering. That way they won't pay attention to the main important things that are happening and that are going on. We can lie to them. We can just make it up. We'll call it anything. We'll make it unsubstantiated. And we'll just keep telling lies long enough until psychosomatically they'll begin to believe that the lie is the truth. And then we'll unload all this crap on them that we really want to unload. That's what's going on right now. Back to the article. But the U.S. government also has broad authority to detain immigrants even when they have an application in progress with U.S. citizenship and immigration services. If an individual is overstaying their visa, they are therefore an illegal immigrant residing in this country, and they are subject to deportation. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, said in a January news conference. Like her words really mean something. You know what? I'm thinking about Linda McMahon, the wife of Vince McMahon, the former owner, Mr. McMahon character and head of World Wrestling Entertainment, what used to be known as WWF. You notice at our hearing he wasn't there? She had her son-in-law, Triple H. She had her daughter, Stephanie. But Vince isn't there because they would have grilled her about Vince's alleged sexual coming indictment and all the things that he's been involved in. And make no mistake about it, Linda McMahon is a heartless, cruel woman. Don't be fooled. She has become the Secretary of Education for one reason and one reason only, to make life hard for people who do not have enough money to do what they need to be able to do for themselves. Bartell didn't see it that way. Not when he met Munaz in the small Wisconsin town where she had worked lawfully on a temporary visa. Now, after they spent months filling out the USCIS paperwork to apply for her legal permanent residency, he saw her as a funny, caring, hardworking woman who came legally, not one of the illegals who the president he supported promised to deport. Here's another photo of them in happier times. The town where they met, Wisconsin Dells, population 2,942, draws tens of thousands of tourists each summer to a constellation of water parks, including one billed as the nation's largest Noah's Ark. Martell grew up nearby, stayed, and got a job with a decent pay working maintenance in a factory. For Munez, the Dells region was an adventure. As a college student in Peru studying human resources management, she applied and was accepted to a work study program, secured a U.S. visa, and got a job picking up towels at one of the Dells water parks in 2019. When COVID-19 hit the following winter, with flights canceled and borders closed, she couldn't get home, and she overstayed her visa. She stayed in the Dells, packing veggies for a local farm and working food service at hotels. When they met, Bartel gave her his number on a scrap of paper. She threw it away. But they connected a few days later on Facebook. He invited her to dinner. Munez teased that it better not be at McDonald's. On their first date, they both confessed they were looking for a relationship that could last. ICE is under extreme pressure from the White House to ramp up enforcement. Top ICE officials, including the newly installed acting director, they're always acting, they're never permanent, were reassigned within weeks of Trump's taking office, allegedly over frustration that detentions and deportations weren't rising fast enough. The reality of immigration enforcement is that targeting convicted criminals requires time and manpower. It can take half a dozen agents to arrest a single person. An airport checkpoint, like the one at the San Juan airport in mid-February, can quickly round up multiple people whose immigration status may be in limbo. ICE is really widening the net in a really chilling way in terms of who they are going after, said Jesse Franz Blue, senior policy analyst for the National Immigration Justice Center. People who generally don't fit the profile of who they picked up before are being picked up now. It took days for Bartel to find his wife after she was detained at the airport. It was nearly a week before Munez appeared in the ICE detention system. Her name finally turned up in an online locator assigned to a privately run detention center in Louisiana. Let's take that private. We'll wear private out. It's pay for profit. It's a pay for profit prison. It's not a detention center. It is a prison. These are privately owned by wealthy people who make billions and hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. This is a stipulated fact. On a video call, her black curls hung askew. She was a tan uniform reflecting her lack of criminal record. There were nearly 80 other women in the dormitory. The cost to taxpayers for detaining an adult was $282 per day in 2020, according to the American Immigration Council, a nonpartisan research organization. Bartel worries his wife emotionally. He worries about his wife emotionally. I'm concerned for her, he said. It can't be easy being trapped in a room with 100 other people. They don't have anything in there. It's just so wasteful. They keep in touch on 20 cents a minute phone call. Listen to this. This is prison. They keep in touch on 20 cents a minute phone calls. She worries about Bartel's son and whether he is eating well or misses her Peruvian cooking. The money the couple saved for a down payment on a home has evaporated into attorney's fees and saving to pay a bond for her release if she's given that. It's all about that dollar. It's all about the money at the end of the day. Both of them have been thinking a lot about Bartel's vote for Trump. I knew they were cracking down, he said. I guess I didn't know how it was going down. He imagined the administration would target people who snuck over the border and weren't vetted. But his wife, they know who she is and where she came from, he said. They need to get the vetting done and not keep these people locked up. It doesn't make any sense. Never surrender. Never quit.